Well, hello there. It's Jason from the Me&Him podcast, and I'm with my dad, Matt. How you going, Dad?
Very well, thank you, son.
Are you well?
As well as can be expected.
You're fighting a good fight, that's for sure. Well, Dad, we've got a really good conversation coming today because I've got my good mate, Mr. Mark Head, on the call on the virtual studio. How are you, Mark?
Good, thanks, Jason. G'day, Jason and Matt.
Yeah,
Lovely to see you.
Me&Him
You
and
too.
this other fella. Mark, I've been talking to you about coming on the podcast for a little while. You know, there's been a few things got in the way of that, not Dad's health, your health, my general busyness notwithstanding. But I'm so glad that you're here today. And we actually had a mate of yours on last episode, which you probably know about.
Stanley Jones on there.
Yeah, Mike Stanley Jones. Tell me, Dad just met Mike on that recording. Tell me just how would you describe Mike to someone who didn't know him?
Hyperactive. Straight away. He's got more energy than the whole of the Australian Defence Force put together, I think. I don't know how he finds
That wouldn't be hard.
But he's an amazing person, and credit to him and his wife. They've raised 4 beautiful kids that I've got to know pretty well, and it just amazes me how he fits in the time to do so much with 4 kids, but he also contributes to the community so more than anyone I can ever imagine. He's received numerous accolades over the years, life membership of the surf club and stuff like that, but he's a wonderful guy, and our parents knew each other coincidentally even before Mike and I knew each other. It goes back to Cornwall. Mike and I were both born over there, and Mike and I knew each other for 15 years before we found out our parents were good friends. And so it's a small little world, but Mike's an amazing person, and he's one of those can-do guys. If he's never tried it before, he's willing to give it a go, and usually turns out good.
So this is, we've kind of got a 1-2 punch combo here with, last episode and this one with 2 great guys. I met you both around the same time as part of the Avalon Surf Club, and our kids were in the nippers there, kids of the same age group. And I was always admired both Mike and your commitment to the community and fronting up early and getting things set and corralling the kids and doing extra stuff on the weekend and what have you. And there was a bit of troop of us, weren't there? There were kind of a cluster of, I don't know, a dozen guys who got to know each other and go out in the morning for this. You guys did a lot more early morning surfs than I did. I've got to be honest. But you were an important part of it. I mean, you were a key part of that. But things have changed for you, right? Things have changed, and I would have you on regardless. But I wanted to sort of address early on. Maybe we won't go into great detail now, but what changed for you over the last couple of years?
2.5 years ago, biggest change in my life has ever happened, and that is I was out with Mike Stanley Jones. Again, we're having a surf with a couple of other mates. It wasn't a big surf, it was just an average day, and I've surfed my whole entire life and all around the world. And anyway, I had a freak accident resulting in me breaking my neck in 3 different places. And as I was out in the surf, I ended up being in the water or under the water for just over 8 minutes. Mike actually was the one who first got to me, and with my other mates, they got me out of the surf. They did CPR for 45 minutes. The paramedics came and continued that on for another 45 minutes before getting me to Royal North Shore Hospital, at which time parents have been informed to come to the hospital, and they basically said, look, the guy's been underwater for 8 minutes. He's had 90 minutes of CPR. There's no real hope. And my dad particularly refused to accept that. He said, you don't know this guy. He's been through traumas before and he's bounced back. So there was no turning off life support systems or anything. Dad insisted, no, we're going to hang on to it and see how long it goes for. And after a couple of weeks, they got me off the life support and I was breathing on my own. And then they said, look, if he comes out of the coma that I was in, I was going to be severely brain damaged anyway. And a few days after that, I woke up and there was no apparent brain damage, more than I had before the accident anyway.
That was a joke, right?
It was an attempt at a joke. And then because I had all the tubes down the throat and hooked up to all the monitors, etc., they couldn't do x-rays and MRIs and all those kind of things until they got me all the wires and tubes out of me. And when they did an MRI, that's when they discovered that I'd broken my neck. And I got told, while I still was hooked up to a lot of machines, they said to me, I've broken C3, 4 and 5, which is a high-level spinal injury, the 3 different vertebrae. And they were pretty straightforward with me, the doctors. Again, Mike and another friend and my dad were there, and they said, Mark, I'm sorry to tell you, you're a quadriplegic, and you pretty much, this is all you've got to look forward for the rest of your life. You're going to be spending it in bed. And there's nothing that we can do about it because modern technology or medical science hasn't caught up yet to figure out how to fix these injuries. And that's the first part of it. But then as we moved along further, a couple of months later, during the first few months, my understanding of quadriplegic was always that it's someone who can't move or feel anything below their neck. And one morning in hospital, every morning I had a regular ritual that I'd look down at my feet and I'd try and wiggle my toes. And for a couple of months, there was nothing. And then one day, out of nowhere, the toes started wiggling. And I asked the doctor, I said, well, hang on, you're telling me I'm a quadriplegic. How's this happening? And that's when I got explained to me the true definition of quadriplegic is when you've had a high-level spinal injury and all your 4 limbs are severely affected. And that was certainly the case with me.
Did you know that, Dad, that quadriplegics can actually, Mark, from my understanding, can not just walk but drive cars? Did you know that, Dad?
No, I didn't. I was completely in the dark.
Yeah, well, so was I, and I was ecstatic to hear that there are people classified as quadriplegics, and they're walking around, and their level of quadriplegia might be that they don't have any feeling over their whole body, but they still have the signals going from the brain that operate the limbs. For me, over a period of time, and I'm still progressing now, it's 2.5 years later, but I've got feeling over my whole entire body, and I can move all parts of my body as well, but certainly not to the extent that, I'm not going to any triathlons or anything yet. I keep on saying yet.
I haven't seen you nearly as much as Mike and your Avalon community, which you've got we'll talk more about this, the gym buddies that you've got and the sort of the way the community wrapped around you. But the progress has been incredible. And not just the progress, mate, the mindset that you've exhibited, and I'm sure you have your moments and all the rest, but just to see you even last time with more mobility in your hands and being able to do things that you weren't able to do a few months back. It's incredible. It's been incredible to watch, and that's why I wanted to have you on. I want to introduce you, Dad. There's things that who you are, regardless of the accent, was someone I'd like to talk more in depth about, and about manhood and fatherhood and all that. But how you've come through this trauma and where you're at now and where you're going is in itself quite inspirational. So, Dad, if you're ready, I want to buckle up and get this underway.
Yes, sir.
I'm ready.
You ready? Okay,
Yep.
Strap yourselves in. Here we go. Mark Head on the podcast.